So I printed this pattern off of yarnspirations.com. You can do the same if you'd like. There is the pattern number, so you could go online and search that pattern number, or you can just search dog sweaters and you'll find it that way. This is a free pattern for you to download. I'm going to be referring to the pattern so that you can kind of understand where we're at and what we're doing. And I've gone ahead and highlighted a few things, the yarn, the colors, many colors in this type of yarn, the tools that you need. And you'll also notice when you go online that you can click on certain links. That'll teach you how to weave in the ends, which I'm going to show you as well. And also we've got a tutorial on making a granny square that you can click on. But we're going to be doing all of that in the video. You see here we're going to be making 4 motifs, 4 of the granny squares for the small size. And this pattern actually is 10 pages because it's got a medium, large, and extra large too. So we're going to be making the small. That's the diagram right there. We will be making that one. If a lot of people do like this video and want to see other sizes, I may go ahead and do other sizes depending on how many comments I get and what size you want to have made. And it's really easy to work up, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So this is the yarn, Red Heart Granny Square all-in-one. You do not have to change colors. You just start from the middle of the ball and you just make your squares that way, and you just cut off at each end of the square. This is soft white, green scream. And then there's the other information right there on the ball of yarn. But make sure you do pull it from the center. You'll have to reach in and make sure you get your yarn started from the center. If you crochet tight or loose and the granny square doesn't come out exactly right, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix that. Now, as far as the tools that you need, you're going to need a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, also called an I-9. And you will need a pair of scissors. And we're going to use some stitch markers, wide-eyed needles for weaving in the ends. And the pattern calls for snaps, buttons, or hook and eyes. Those snaps are too small. You'll need bigger ones than that. I took out some buttons that I have, and since the yarn looked a little bit Christmassy, I pulled out some Christmas buttons as well. And I think the buttons are going to work better than the snaps. Also, you can weave in the ends without a needle by using a smaller crochet hook if you have one. And sometimes the tails will be short, and this makes it easier than using a needle. You just go under a few of the threads and just wrap your yarn around and then just pull it through and go back a couple of directions. Here is a look at the finished sweater before we begin. So here is the finished product and the 4 motifs that you will stitch together. You will also make a body strap and a right side and left side of the neck area that you will stitch together as well. Now, you don't have to worry about the pattern when it comes to the body strap or the neck. It's just the motifs that have that particular pattern. And with this piece, I went ahead and sewed some buttons on. I used buttons instead of snaps. And what I did was just kind of look at the size buttons I have, which would fit into the opening between the stitches. So this was a good size to put on that fits comfortably through the space there. There you have it. So let's get started. You will be making 4 granny squares. So I will show you how to make one, and then you will make 3 more. Okay, please be sure that you do pull your yarn from the center, and it should be the dark navy blue is our first color that we'll begin with. and you want a tail of like 4.5, 5 inches, somewhere along there. And go ahead and make your slip knot. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to start off by doing a chain 4. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you have your chain 4. So once you've done your chain 4, you want to make your circle by slip stitching into the first chain that you made. So just go into that first stitch and grab your yarn, pull it through, and then pull it through the loop on the hook. And there you've connected it together. Let's start with round 1. So for round 1, make sure you know where your middle is. And we're going to start off by doing a chain 6. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This actually is considered a double crochet in a chain 3. That's what that will act as. So now we're going to do 3 double crochet in the center of that circle, in the center of the ring. So here, make sure you go into the center and do 3 double crochet. So here's the first one. You wrap the yarn around the hook, you go into the center and pull up your yarn and come back through. Pull up your yarn, go through 2 loops on the hook, pull up your yarn and go through the last 2 loops. Do another one. This is the second double crochet. And then the third one. And then we're going to be doing a chain 3. That's the last double crochet. Now we're going to do a chain 3. There's 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do 3 double crochet and a chain 3 again in the center of the ring. So here's my first double crochet, my second double crochet, and my third double crochet, and then a chain 3, and the chain 3. And now we're going to do that again. We're going to do 3 double crochet and a chain 3. Here's the first double crochet, the second double crochet. Make sure you're going in the center of the ring. And here's the third double crochet. And then a chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now that we've come around, we have to do 2 double crochet, not 3, because that chain 6 acted as a double crochet in a chain 3. So I'm going to do 2 double crochet. Here's the first one. And the second double crochet. And you see where the color is changing, pretty much right at the exact spot. And now we're going to go into the top of the chain 3, and we're going to do a slip stitch. So just count 1, 2, 3, and insert your hook. Grab the yarn and bring it through. And the other loop on the hook. Bring it all the way through. There's your slip stitch to join it. And that's how the beginning starts. Now we're going to change colors. So if by chance you have too much blue left over, or you have red that has gotten into your stitching in the blue, then we'll have to make an adjustment. And I'm going to show you how the directions read it, and then I'm going to show you how to do an adjustment before we move on. So maybe the instructions explain it better, where it says each color aligns with one round in the motif with the 5 colors in total. And you see right here, you get all your different colors, and they should align and come out perfectly. But they don't always do that. So if too much color is left at the end of the round, pull back some of the stitches and slightly loosen your gauge or loosen your stitches and rework the stitches and then finish at the color change. But if too little color is left, pull back some stitches and slightly tighten your gauge and rework the stitches and finish at the color change. And I'm going to show you exactly how that works. How to fix when there's not enough color left over. So here's an example where my stitches are way too loose. I still have 2 more double crochets to do before I finish this round, but I'm in the red. So if I start to do my 2 double crochets, they're going to be red, and this is the center of the motif, and it's supposed to be all blue. So you see I'm stitching too loose and I've got red. So I'm going to have to pull out some of my work, or you can start from the beginning. I'm just going to pull out just a little bit of the work, go back a little bit more, and I'm going to stitch tighter. So I'm going to go right back in and start stitching tighter. So now I'm just going to speed up the video, and what I'm doing is I'm stitching tighter, and hopefully by the time I get down to the end of the middle of the motif, I will be at the right point. Okay, so after tightening my stitches, I've come to the end, and the color change is going to start right here as I do my slip stitch. I could have maybe stitched just a little tighter, but this is good. And now I will begin my next round with the red color. And now I'm going to show you what happens if you stitch too tightly. How to fix when you have too much color left over. All right, now I've done a sample where I've done everything too tight and I have too much blue left over. And at this point I should be using red because I'm starting my chain of 6, which should be in the red color. And then I'm going to do 3 double crochets, but if I do that, it's not going to look right. In fact, the chain 6 should be in the red color. So again, you have to pull out your work, and now you're going to have to loosen up your work as you stitch along. And just loosen up your stitches. Again, you can start from the beginning because it's just a small patch, or just pull back some of your stitches and start over. I hope that helps. Now that you know how to fix your tension, let's move on to round 2. All right, so for round 2, we're going to start off by doing a slip stitch into the gap under the chain 3. So we're going to go right into that gap, and we're going to do a slip stitch. Grab your yarn, come through, and pull it through the yarn on the hook. And then we're going to do chain of 6. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, now we're going to go and do 3 double crochets in that same gap right there. So I want you to do 3 double crochets. Here's 1 and 2 and 3. right, and then when we work our way around, we will be doing 2 double crochets right next to that chain 3 right there. Okay, so now right here we're going to do a chain 1. So do your chain 1, and then we're going to move over into the corner, and we're going to do 3 double crochet, a chain 3, and 3 double crochet. So do 3 double crochet, and then we're going to do a chain 3 because we're in the corner. So there's the 3 double crochet, and now we're going to do a chain 3. It's 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to do another 3 double crochet. There's 1 and 2 and 3. So now we've completed that corner, and we're going to go into the next corner, but first we're going to chain 1, move into the next corner, and do the same thing again. 3 double crochet, a chain 3, and 3 double crochet. Here's the first double crochet, the second, and the third. And do your chain 3, and do another set of 3 double crochet. There's the last one. Now you've completed another corner, and we'll chain 1 again and go into the next corner. 3 double crochet. That's 1, 2, and 3. We did our chain 3 and then 3 more double crochet. Okay, now we're coming to the end, and we are going to do another chain 1, but you see how much color I have left. I have just enough red left, I hope, until the yellow starts. So do a chain 1. Now that we are back to that chain 6, we're going to do 2 double crochet in that gap. Not 3, just 2. So do 2 double crochet. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. Okay, now we're going to connect with the third chain. We're going to do a slip stitch to connect that. There's my third chain from the bottom, and I'm just going to go in there and do a slip stitch. Okay, so now we have our corner again. It looks like 3 double crochet with a chain 3 and 3 double crochet. Let's begin round 3. All right, now we're going to slip stitch into that gap right there, the space, the chain 3 space. So go ahead and just grab your yarn, bring it through, and we have finished that, and we will start our chain 6. And do your chain 6 right at this point. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we're going to do our 3 double crochet. This is just like the previous round where we started in the corner. And a lot of this is going to be repetitive, so you can always fast forward if you already know what to do. So basically now we are going to do a chain 1 and then 3 double crochet in the next gap. So do your chain 1, go into the next gap, and do your 3 double crochet. So the only time we do a chain 3 is when we're working in our corners. Okay, so here we have our 3 double crochet again. And then we're going to do another chain 1, and then we will get to our corner again. And in the corner we do our 3 double crochet, chain 3, and 3 double crochet. So here's the 3 double crochet. And then our chain 3, because we're in our corner. And another 3 double crochet. And then again we will do just chain 1 and do our side piece of 3 double crochets. And then our chain 1, and now we're back into a corner. Again we do 3 double crochet, and then we will do a chain 3. There's 1, 2, and 3, and then our 3 double crochet. Chain 1 once we're done with the 3 double crochet. Back on the side of the motif. There was our chain 1. Now do our 3 double crochet on the side again. And again, I know this is repetitive, and if you already know how to do this, you can just fast forward into the next section. Okay, have our chain 1. Now we're back into the corner. And we're doing a chain, 3 double crochet rather. And our chain 3. And our last 3 double crochet in that corner. And our chain 1, and work the 3 double crochet in the side. And again, once you've finished your 3 double crochets, you're going to do a chain 1. And there's a chain 1, and then we're going to, I'm looking at see how much color I have left, and it looks like I have enough yellow left to get to the end. Now we're going to do our 2 double crochets in that gap. So do your 2 double crochets. And then we will connect it with a slip stitch. So we'll do our 3rd chain 1, 2, and 3, and just go in there and do your slip stitch, and we have finished that round, and it came out perfect. Just a little bit of color left, which is fine. Okay, let's move on to round 4. Let's begin round 4. Starting with round 4, we are going to go into that gap and do our slip stitch and our chain 6. And I'm going to speed up the video from this point. And we do our chain 6. And then we'll go in and do our 3 double crochets. And then our chain 1 right here. And then 3 double crochets on the side. Then once we do those 3 double crochets, we'll do a chain 1. And then another side piece with 3 double crochets. And then another chain 1. And then we will do our corner. 3 double crochets, a chain 3, and 3 double crochets. There's the 3 double crochets, and then a chain 3, and 3 double crochets. Okay, so now we have our corner done, and I think by now you know how this pattern works, where you have your 3 double crochet and your chain 1 in between on the sides, and then your corner is your 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet. So continue all the way around. I'll meet you at the end. So I'm checking to see how much green or turquoise I have left over, and it looks like I might have enough. We're about to find out. So I'm going to do my chain 1 and then my 2 double crochets right in that gap. Here's the first one, and the second one is not going to be the right color. So I am going to have to stop right here and pull out a few stitches. So I'll do that right now. And then I will restitch a little bit tighter. So I've gone back a few stitches and I'm going to stitch a little bit tighter. Going to do my 3 double crochets and my chain 1. A little bit tighter than the others. And I'm going to do that again. My 3 double crochet. And my chain 1. And I'm checking to see how much of the color I have left. It might work this time. Doing my 2 double crochets. And I think we're just going to make it. And then go into the 3rd chain and do my slip stitch and bring it together. Round 5. So we're going to go ahead and do our slip stitch to connect the white. And this is our last round, round 5. We do our chain 6. 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then our 3 double crochets. And you'll notice that this yarn has some discoloring in it, but I'm not going to do anything about that. It looks fine. I wouldn't bother with changing that at all. So I'm going to continue on like we have been, where you do your 3 double crochet in each gap with a chain 1 in between. And then when you get to the corner, you know you do your 3 double crochet, a chain 3, and a 3 double crochet. And I will meet you back around at the end. So again, I am too short with the color of the yarn. Definitely need extra white at the end here to weave in the ends. So last couple of rows, I need to start stitching a little bit tighter. So I'll do that with the next granny square that I make. So I am pulling back the yarn all the way to here, and then I will stitch tighter. All right, I should have enough left over this time. I'm doing my 2 double crochets in that gap, and then I will count the chain 3. And I will go ahead and do my slip stitch into the chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And we will finish that round, and we're going to weave in the ends. So I have just enough white left over to weave it in. I'm just going to take my scissors and go ahead and cut that, and I will show you how I weave in the ends. Just pull it through. And there's the back side. We're going to weave in the 2 strands that we have left over. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I do. Before we weave in the ends, please measure your granny square. It should be 6 by 6 for the size small dog. And, you know, if it's just a hair or 2 shorter or longer, that'll be fine. You just don't want it like a 1/2 inch too long or a 1/2 inch too short. That might make a big difference. So go ahead and measure it, and then we were going to weave in the ends. And when your tail is short, I'll show you another way to weave it in without the needle. So I don't have a short wide-eyed needle, and this is a short tail. So that's going to be hard to weave in with the needle. So instead of using the needle, I'm going to use a smaller crochet hook. So I'm just going to put the needle to the side, and I'm going to show you how to use a smaller crochet hook. So I'm just taking this smaller crochet hook, and I'm just going to put it under a few strands of yarn. And I'm just going to wrap that yarn around the hook and then pull it through. And then I'll turn the work the other direction, and I'll pull the yarn back through, going in the other direction. So same thing, go under a few strands of yarn, put it around the hook, and just bring it through. And then just take your scissors and cut it off as close as you can. And you're going to do the same thing with the white yarn, or if you have a short needle. Now if you want to use your needle and you want to weave in the ends, this is how you would do it. And I just go back and forth a few times. So I'm just going under a few pieces of yarn, and then I'll go back in the other direction. And sometimes just going in 2 directions is good, or you can go in 3 directions, 3 opposite directions, and then just cut it off, and you're done. Be sure you have made 4 granny squares. Connecting the 4 squares together. Okay, now we are going to go ahead and connect our granny squares together. So in the pattern here, I'm doing the small size. We're going to connect the 4 granny squares, and we're going to connect them in the middle, horizontally and vertically. And we're going to be using the flat slip stitch seam. That's what it shows right there, and I'll show you how that works. But first, we're going to have to pull the leftover yarn out of our ball of yarn. We need to keep pulling it until we get to the white, because we're going to be using white to connect it. Okay, so I've gotten to the white, and I'm just going to cut it between the two colors. And whatever leftover yarn, you can just hold on to that if you'd like. And we're going to start with our white, and we're going to start doing our seams. So make sure you have your right side facing up. And I had put a stitch marker on the wrong side, but you can also tell by the edging. You see the stitches on the outside. The right side, you see the stitching is different. It's like an upside down V. And we're going to be going into the outside piece of yarn on each of those V's. That's where we're going to be stitching, and then we will connect it to the outside piece of yarn on the other one, right along there. Okay, we're going to start off with our slip knot, and we're going to be putting our yarn underneath or behind the granny squares. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So we're going to take the bottom corner, and we're going to go into that middle stitch. If you look at the 3 stitches you have, you've got 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go into that middle stitch, and I'm just grabbing the outside on top, and then I'm just going to move my yarn out of the way and grab the other granny square and go into that middle stitch right there, and just go into the top of that. Now I have 3 loops on my hook, counting the slip knot, and just take your working yarn, loop it over, and pull it through all 3 loops on the hook. Right there. Now we're going into the next stitch, right in the top. You see how I've got my yarn underneath, and go into the next stitch on the other granny square. Grab your yarn and go through all 3 loops on the hook. And you'll see how it's starting to form the connection right there. And I just want you to continue on doing the same thing. Go into the stitch on the top and the corresponding stitch on the other granny square, and just grab your yarn and pull it through all 3 loops on the hook. Go into the next one, do the same thing, and continue. So I want you to continue doing the stitches, and then I'm going to meet you at the top, and we'll show you how to connect the next 2 granny squares. So I've got my other 2 granny squares ready to connect, and I have a couple of more stitches on the first 2 before I connect them. So I'm down to right at the corner here. I've got to go into this stitch right there and match it up to the other side. Pull that yarn through, and now I'm back to the center of the corner, and I'm going right into that one right there, that center stitch, and match it up with the center stitch on the other side. Bring that together. Now we're going to grab the other 2 pieces, go into that corner stitch, grab the other piece, go into the corner stitch, right there. Grab your yarn and bring it through all the loops on the hook. Now you've connected the other two granny squares. So you want to continue on, go into the next stitch, match it up with the other granny square, and go ahead and connect it, and just keep going along into each stitch and the corresponding stitch on the other side, and just keep connecting them together, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, just go ahead and get down to your last stitch, and you'll cut your yarn and pull it through. This is my last stitch. Just going to pull it out, cut the yarn, and pull it through. And then you can weave in the tail. All right, we're going to connect the other two sides, and you just start off like you did with the first two. Just go into the corner piece and do your slip stitch, and you continue on. And once you get to the middle, we're going to do a chain one. So what I'm going to do is when I get to the middle, I will show you exactly how to do that, and we'll continue on from there. So now that we've reached the middle, all we're going to do is a chain one right over the stitches. So go ahead and do your chain one, and then you're just going to continue on like you did before. You'll just grab your stitch into the one granny square, which would be the next stitch, and grab the corresponding stitch on the other granny square. Bring them together, and you're just going to continue that pattern. You see I've done a few already. So you want to go ahead and finish just like you did before, and when you get to the end, you'll just cut your yarn, pull it through, and then we will move on and do the belly strap. Okay, we're going to get started with the belly strap. On this project I had started with the navy blue, but it doesn't matter what color you start with. The pattern's right here where you see all the rows, and it tells you how many times to repeat. And we're going to be doing the left side neck after that and the right side neck. I'll probably start with the right side neck first. So we have a perfect square, and we're going to start on our left side. And you see here that I started with the dark navy blue. It doesn't matter what color you start with because there's no color pattern on this. And I had white left over on my ball of yarn, so I'm just going to go ahead and start with white. Let's do row 1 of the belly strap. Okay, we're going to start. This will be considered the left side of our project. We're going to count 3 of the groupings of the double crochet, 3, 6, 9, and go into that next gap to start our project. So you start with your slip knot, and we're going to go into this gap right here, and we want to do our slip stitch, and then we're going to do a chain 3. That's 1, 2, and 3, and then you want to do 2 double crochet in that same gap. Okay, and then you're going to do your chain 1, and you're going to go to the next gap, and you're going to do 3 double crochet. There's 1 and 2 and 3, and another chain 1. Now we are not going into another gap. We are going into the center there where you did your slip stitch to connect the granny squares, and you're just going to grab into any hole in there, somewhere in the center. I was too close to the edge. I'm going to go into right there, and I'm going to do 3 double crochet in that same hole. There's the first one. Go right back in there, same spot, do your second double crochet, and then do a third one. And then of course you're going to do your chain 1. And then we're going to skip over this section right here, and we're going to go into the next gap and do our 3 double crochet. Here's the second one, and the third. So you have 4 groupings of your 3 double crochet. Row 2 of the belly strap. Now we're going to turn our work and we're going to do a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are going to go into that next gap, the chain 1 space, as they call it, and we're going to do 3 double crochets. Here's the second one. Here's the third one. And then you want to do a chain 1, go into the next gap and do your 3 double crochets. And a chain 1. And the next gap and do 3 double crochets. And your chain 1. And then we're going to go into the top of that first stitch and do our double crochet. So you have done a chain 4, 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. Row 3 of the belly strap. Okay, just speeding up the film a little bit, we want to go ahead and turn our work and do a chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to go into that same starting point and do 2 double crochets. So we're not going into the gap. We're going into that same stitch where we did the chain 3. And we're doing 2 more double crochets. And then we're going to do our chain 1 and go into the next gap and do 3 double crochets. And then we'll do our chain 1 again. And another 3 double crochets. Our chain 1. Now when we get over to this section where we had our chain 4, we're going to go into the top of the chain 3. So you want to count to the top of the chain 3. And we're going to do 3 double crochets right in there. Here's the first one. And the second one. And the third one. Okay, so we have done our base row, row 2, row 3, and we're going to repeat row 2 and 3 until we get 6 inches. Row 4 of the belly strap. Repeat rows 2 and 3 until you get up to 6 inches, and then make sure you're on the wrong side at the end of 6 inches. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and turn the work and start row 4 for you, just a little bit at the beginning. So we'll do a chain 4, and then we're going to do 3 double crochets into that gap. So this is row 4, which is a repeat of row 2. So we're going to be repeating rows 2 and 3 until we get 6 inches long, and you have to be on the wrong side of your project when you get to 6 inches. And if you're not on the wrong side, you'll just have to take out a row or add a row. So I will meet you at the end of 6 inches. So I'm measuring my work. I am on the wrong side. And if you are a hair short of 6 inches or a hair too long, you're still fine. Just make sure that you are on the wrong side. You just don't want it to be like a 1/2 inch or 3/4. Last row of the belly strap. So you just want to turn your work, and we're going to do single crochets across the top. So I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to start off with a chain 1. So here's the chain 1. I'm going to skip the chain 1 there, but I will go into that first stitch, go under both loops, and do a single crochet. Skip that chain 1, go into the next stitch, grab your yarn, come through, grab your yarn, go through the 2 loops on the hook. That's your single crochet. So you want to do this all the way across, making sure that you skip the chain 1 and go into the next stitch. So continue across. Okay, so we're down to the end where we had our chain 4, and we're going to count 3 chains and go into the top of the 3rd chain and do our last single crochet. Okay, and then what you want to do is just cut your yarn and pull it through, and then just weave that in. So now you finish the belly strap, and we're just going to turn our work, our whole project around, and we're going to start on the right and left side of the neck area. Next is the right and left sides of the neck. So if we look at the pattern, we see the left and the right sides of the neck area, which is the same pattern as the belly strap. So this is going to work up very quickly. You just have to make sure that your belly strap is on the left side. And we're going to do, you see the left side of the neck will be here, and the right side is here. And both sides of the neck will be 6 rows each. Okay, let's do the right side of the neck, row 1. Okay, so starting on the right side of your project with your belly strap on your left, we are going to go into the right corner, do your slip knot, and do a slip stitch into that right corner. And then you want to chain 3 and go into that same corner and do 2 double crochet. And then you do your chain 1, go into the next space and do 3 double crochet. And then we will do our chain 1 again and go into the next space and do 3 double crochet again. So you see, this is just like the beginning of the belly strap. And the last one here. So we'll end up with 4 sets of 3 double crochet. There you have it. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. Right side of neck, row 2. Okay, we're going to turn our work, and we're going to do the same pattern again, but we're going to start off with a chain 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to do our 3 double crochet into the next gap. And I'm going to fast forward to the end. You just continue until you get to the end, doing 3 double crochets in each gap, and I'm going to meet you at the end. Okay, so I'm down at the end, and we're going to do our chain 1, and then we're going to do a double crochet in the top of that first stitch. Okay, so we are finished with round 2. Right side of neck, row 3. So I'll start row 3, and I want you to continue doing the same pattern again, your 3 double crochet in each gap. So you start off with a chain 3, and then you go into that same stitch where you started and do 2 more double crochet, and then you'll do a chain 1, and I'm going to meet you at the end of this row. So now we're at the end. We have our chain 4. We're going to go into the top of the chain 3 and do a double crochet, and then we'll do 2 more in that same spot. So on your own, I want you to repeat rows 2 and 3 once more, and then repeat row 2 once more. So that's 1, 2, 3, repeat 2 and 3, and repeat row 2 one more time. Now to finish off, right here at the end, we go into that top stitch, we do a double crochet, and we're finished with that round. Okay, so just cut off your ends and weave them in. And we're going to flip our work, and we're going to do the left side of the neck. So you've got your right side, we're going to do the left side. Left side of neck, row 1. Okay, so we're going to start on the left side of the neck. We finished the right side, except we're going to start into that gap right there. And I have a lot of the white left over in my ball of yarn, and I don't want to have too much white, so I'm just going to cut it where the navy blue meets the white, and I'm going to start with the navy blue color. Okay, I've done my slip knot, and I'm going to count over the 2 groupings of the 3 double crochet, go into that next gap, do my slip knot, and then a chain 3, and then 2 double crochet. So I want you to continue the pattern across, just like we've been doing the chain 1 in the middle, and then doing your grouping of 3 double crochet, and I'll meet you at the end. So we're down at the end, and it looks like my chain 4 was not a chain 4, if I can see this right. So I'm going to make sure there's a chain 1 in the middle, and go into that next chain, which looks like it might be a chain 2 because I messed up. But instead of ripping out my work, I'm just not going to do that. I'll just continue on and make my 3 double crochet in that spot there. And then you will have your 4 sets of 3 double crochet. Left side of neck, row 2. So we're going to turn our work again. We're going to start on our row 2. I'm just going to do the beginning of this, and then I'm going to meet you at the end. So you want to go ahead and start off with your chain 4. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then go into the gap and do 3 double crochet. So do the same as we've done before, chain 1 in between, and then 3 double crochet in the gaps, and I'll meet you at the end of this row. Now we're doing the left side of the neck, row 3. Okay, let's do our row 3. I've turned my work, and you're going to do your chain 3. And then you're going to do 2 double crochets in that same spot. And once you do that, you'll do your chain 1 and continue on into each gap doing your 3 double crochet and a chain 1. I'll meet you at the end. So we're counting 3 chains up, doing our double crochet, and 2 more double crochets. And we've reached the end of that row. Repeat rows 2 and row 3 again. So this is row 4, which is a repeat of row 2. So you're going to be doing a repeat of 2 and 3, but here's just a start for you. And once I finish rows 4 and 5, I'll meet you at the end. So continue on with the pattern. Okay, so we've done our first row, second row, third row, repeat of the second row and the third row, which was row 4 and 5. Row 6, repeat second row. And we are going to do the second row one more time. So you want to go ahead and do your chain 4. Go into the next gap and do your 3 double crochet and continue on to the end. I'll meet you at the end of this row. So I finished that row 2 again, which is row 6, with a double crochet at the very end. And we are going to go ahead and snip our yarn and weave in the end. And then we're going to move on and connect the neck together, connecting the right and left side of the neck. So we have our right side of the neck and our left side of the neck. We're going to put the two together by doing our flat slip stitch, just like we did with our 4 motifs. Right here. I'm going to do the same thing. Make sure you have your right sides, and you're going to connect them, and you're going to go into that middle chain. I've already got my slip knot. Go into that middle chain right on top, grab one of the loops, grab the corresponding loop on the other side in the middle. Make sure your yarn tail is underneath, and go ahead and pull up a loop and bring it through all 3 loops on the hook. All right, just go into the next stitch. Grab just the outside loop, the outside piece of yarn, grab the corresponding one on the other side, grab your yarn, and pull it through. I'll do that one more time. Going into the next stitch, the outside piece of yarn, the outside piece of yarn on the corresponding side, grab your yarn, pull it through all of the loops on the hook. Continue on this pattern. I'll meet you at the end of the row. So we've come down to the very end, and you just want to go ahead and cut your yarn, pull it out, and weave in your ends. And then our next step will be sewing on the buttons. Finishing up and sewing on the buttons. Okay, our last step is to put in the buttons. And Loki needs to move out of the way. He's been very patient. So we're going to use these gaps to put our buttons in, and I put stitch markers. I'm going to have my buttons. So this will be our last step, adding the buttons or snaps if you're adding snaps, or hook and eyes for that matter. Okay, so I have sewn 3 of the buttons on. I have my stitch marker left for the last button, and I'll just show you as quickly as I can. I go ahead and thread my needle. What I do is I fold my thread in half, and I just take the other 2 ends and I put them through the needle. This way I can go through the loop once I'm sewing to tighten it up. So just do it like that. You've got the loop on the left side and a short tail going through the needle. Okay, I'm just going to speed this up a little bit and show you how I sew on the button. So I've got my needle going through those 2 pieces of yarn where I had my stitch marker, pull it through, take the needle, go through that loop, and just tighten it up. And then I'll take my stitch marker out, and I'm just going to take my needle, go through those 2 pieces of yarn again, and just tighten it up. Now I'm going to take my button, and I'm just going to go through the back of the button. And what I'll do is I'll just go through from the front to the back a couple of times, and I'll stay in the front. So right now I'm going to just go ahead and go through the front to the back, pull that needle through, hold it tight, go back through. I'm just going to tighten that up a couple of times. So I'm just going from the front to the back and then staying in the front, grabbing a few pieces, going through the back part of the button. I'm doing that a few times, grabbing some of the yarn, just going through the back of the button, making sure it's good and tight. Going to take a few more stitches on the back side, go through the loop, another few stitches, and tighten it up. Just make sure that it's good and tight. Okay, and then just snip off your thread. So you have our cute little Christmas buttons, and you just use the gaps as your buttonholes. And I want to thank you all for watching, and please like and subscribe if you like this video.